We are in Advent. If you didn't know, the season coming up to Christmas, and this particular year, we are talking about the values that pave the road that we walk. That's the tradition, is you cover these different things. Hope, peace, love is this week's. And we're the reason that we have to return to these things is because God told us to walk in a different way. Jesus showed us what it means to walk in a way set apart from the ways of this world. And if I was the kind of preacher who always like had a prop, my prop would be like giant cobblestones, being like, this one is hope, this one is love. These are not the boundaries that keep us on the path. They are the path that we walk. And so we're returning to them this particular year to say, well, what does that mean? What does that look like? What are these words that we say constantly actually about? So this week we have love. Love, we've been doing these biblical definitions rather than our just dictionary definitions. And if you tend to get lost in the Slack, there's an outline of what we're talking about. You can cover it. So first, love, many splendored thing. We're going to look at it in Hebrew and in Greek as is our norm. Say the word ahava. Amazing. Ahava is an onomatopoeia, and it means to breathe with or breathe after. Ahava, right? So it's this very embodied picture, embodied idea, as Hebrew often is. And it's when you give a close friend a hug and you take a deep breath out. It's when you see your kid and you say, you look so cute and adorable. I love that. It's also has a romantic turn to it as well. And we see that in the text. We see it both applied to family. So Abraham loving Isaac is our first thing that we see. But then also when Isaac gets together with Rebecca in the tent, that is called also ahava. So same thing. And what links those two kinds of love together is this idea of breathing with or after. It can be of desire or not, of family. The other one is agape. And if you grew up in the church, you've heard all about agape. You know all about agape. You might feel a little triggered thinking about agape. We are going to not look at good old C.S. Lewis's definition today. In fact, might do a little deconstruction of it. But what does it actually mean? If you look it up, what does agape mean? What's the heart of love? It's this idea of affection, affectionate delight specifically. So what is affection? If we have social scientists in the room, which they are on holiday, because we have one licensed therapist in the room, affect is the word for emotion. Affection has emotion at its root. The word emotion, you can hear motion in it. It's being stirred to something. It's being moved to something from your body, from your emotions, to do something else. So many of us have heard this definition of love that has been fermented by male theologians that are victims of toxic masculinity and perpetuators of toxic masculinity. And so we have all these ideas about love that then feed into our idea of who God is and how we're supposed to love. So we're going to take that apart with our slide talking about what is love not. Number one, love is not begrudging service. So many of us have been told, like, look, you don't have to like your neighbor. You're not going to like your enemy, but you have to love them. And what does that look like? Showing up to the service project. It means mowing their lawn. It means bringing them food when they're sick, even if you feel begrudging about it. If we take a second and apply that back to God, look, God doesn't like you. God doesn't delight in who you are, but he sighed to himself and said, fine, on the schedule it says it's time to die for my people. Here I go. I'll just show up, I guess. That is not a full theology. It's not an accurate theology of God's character and who God is. And also, does that feel very loving if somebody knocks on your door and is like, here's the lasagna. It's because I love you, which means not that I actually like you, but that because Jesus died for me, I'm going to do this for you. Do you love Jesus? Now, that doesn't feel very loving. It doesn't feel like a blessing. It's like, you can keep your lasagna. Have a great day. I hope you feel better later, right? Begrudging service has been offered up as this picture of it's hard to like people. It's hard to love people. And so just show up for them. We do believe in putting love into action. We do believe in showing up. We do even believe in doing hard things, hard acts of service, even when we don't feel like it. But that's not the core definition of love. That's not what love ultimately is. There's no breathing with, right? There's no deep, meaningful connection. That's our Saint Brene Brown, our patron saint Brene Brown. Her definition of love is deep and meaningful connection with another person that requires vulnerability. None of that is present in begrudging service, in just sighing and saying, okay, I know that's the right thing to do. Here I go. The second thing that it's not is grim commitment. You often hear this love as grim commitment theory put out around family. We're heading into the holidays. It might be more prescient than ever, but it's like, I'm grimly committed to my family, and that means that I have to go and I have to do these things because it's my parents. Of course I love them. As a parent, you got to start somewhere. It's not that commitment is bad. This thing is called dedicated, right? The Advent series is called dedicated. And so we want to be committed to things, but it's not just that God is grimly committed to us, and so he gave the life of his son for us. That's not the gospel. Love is more than that. It's this deep, meaningful connection, and that's not present in grim commitment. And again, that's the watered down version when either we're not sure how we feel about emotions, they seem sketchy and they seem feminine and they seem dangerous and vulnerable and irrational, then we set that aside and say, this is just what love is. But that doesn't match the biblical definition of agape or ahava. And then lastly, we have stoic well-wishing. This often sounds like, okay, what does it mean to love my enemy? Well, I guess rather than hoping that they get sent to jail and executed for their crimes, that they will fine. I hope that they repent and sort themselves out and become better people and then get to enjoy that, right? It can look like that a little bit better as being able to say, I have a lot of feelings about that person in this situation, but I wish them well. I hope they find peace. Thank you, next. Hashtag Ariana Grande. That also is not the biblical definition. We do want to be able to wish people well. We do want to be able to practice unconditional positive regard toward all people and not be cursing people and hoping for their downfall. However, that's not breathing with someone. That's not this intimate connection with someone. It's not having your emotions stirred to a place that you want to do something. Jesus did not come to earth out of a sense of begrudging service, grim commitment, or stoic well-wishing for his people. He came because he's breathing with us. He is our breath, right? The Spirit of God. Spirit means breath, ruach, pneumos. Both of those are breath words. And he is moved out of emotion to do something. Jesus wept, and then he raised Lazarus from the grave, right? He didn't just say, silly woman, don't you know that I'm the resurrector? Stop being sad. He weeps first, and then he moves. Okay, so if love is good, if we want meaningful connection, we want deep connection, intimacy between people, knowing and being known, love. What are ways that we can find that? Where does the zeitgeist tell us that we can earn it? There's all sorts of narratives that come from all around us and from within us, so we're going to look at some of those. Don't know what happened to our little Slavic image of that's fine, the incarnation, but who cares? Okay, so culturally reinforced ways to earn love. A lot of these overlap with one another, but I put them out there anyway because one of them might snag our heart in ways that a different phrasing might not. So number one, if I can hustle hard enough, if I just do the most, if I can just show up all the time and be the person that everybody needs me to be, then I will earn love. That ties love to performance, right? And we can't perform all the time. We can't check all of our boxes 100% of the time. We will fail. And even if we were able to, we don't want to experience love through that lens of performance. That's not at the ultimate base of who we are. That's just what we do. If we can be undemanding and chill enough, then we can be loved. Looking at you, Enneagram 9s, mine left the room for such a time as this. But if you can be undemanding and chill enough, this is not who you really are. Again, if it's this meaningful connection, if this deep intimacy of knowing and being known, you're not being known if you're trying to shelve all of your needs and all of your desires and all of your actual opinions and just vibing out and being like, yeah, man, whatever. Being the most amiable as we can possibly be is not a full representation of who we are. And so we're not being known. We're not experiencing love when we turn that dial to try to experience love. Number 3, if we can just fix ourselves first, then we'll have earned love. So maybe we experience a lot of mental health challenges. Maybe we have trauma that we're trying to work through. But there's a problem when we tie self-improvement to earning love, because that means we are sticking our ability to love and be loved at some future date way out there. Eventually, I'll be okay enough. Eventually, I'll be good enough to try to forge good relationships. That keeps it eternally in the future, and again, puts our worthiness on our ability to love and be loved. Number 4, we think we can earn love if we can just fit in with the tribe. If we can just conform properly, if we can just ape all the right opinions and personality and interests and fandoms and whatever it is, then we'll belong. And when we belong, we can find love. Of course, conformity, as soon as there's a chip in that conformity, then we experience, oh no, I don't belong anymore. I don't actually like Marvel movies after all. What do I do? Or even if you never fracture your conformity, that's still not who you truly are, being known and knowing. If I can just attract enough attention, this is a particular plague amongst young people who haven't received attention that they don't want yet. And it's, if I know that I'm really awesome, and if only everybody else knew that I was really awesome, surely that will happen if I'm loud enough. If I express my opinions largely enough, everyone will know how fabulous I am, and I can put that on social media and count my likes and feel super great. Number 1, attention is not the same as love. Attention is not intimacy. And even if we were able to put on the exact image that we want to curate so that people would see it, that would not equate to love, because again, that's not who we really are. It's not that connection of breathing with somebody. Also, you might not attract the kind of attention that you want to be attracting. We thought we were all done, except for Tyler knows my secrets. There's a whole nother page of a whole other page of these. Haha. More. Oh no. If you can just caretake for everyone else and never need anything. Oh no. Shh. Enneagram 2s, that's transactional love, which is not love, right? This embodied breathing with one another, feeling the emotion that moves you to do something is not transaction based. And what that breeds, as people who fall prey to this know, is resentment and frustration that they keep showing up for people and they're not showing up for them in the same way. So if I'm trying to love you and you're not doing it the exact way back, that is just a boiling pit of seething frustration, shame, fear, rage, right? All those things come out. If you just stay relentlessly positive, everyone will like you, right? Just be the person who's like, we got this, I got this, you got this, it'll all be okay. People like me then. Again, that's not full vulnerability and authenticity. Vulnerability requires risk taking, right? Another thing Brene Brown says, and that can feel bad for some of us. But even if we were able to curate that relentless positivity, it can feel grating on other people. Do they feel like they have room to express who they really are and what they're really going through? We're getting close to the end. If I can just gain enough status to be admired, then I'll finally achieve love. First off, if we do succeed at this, it does not feel like love. You could be the most accomplished person you know. You could walk into the potluck and say, somebody says, how was your week? And you said, I went to outer space this week. Somebody would say, the response would probably be, oh, whoa, what was that like? You say, well, it was really cold and it was really hard work, but it was really amazing. Now I'm really tired. The other person would probably say, oh, that's really cool. I'm also pretty tired. My cat was throwing up all night. That, oh, that's really cool, is all of the extent of the status of the admiration that you will probably receive for any of the things that you do in this life, because people are mostly just thinking about themselves. And they don't have that much energy to give into adoration of us. of any of us. And so, even if we do manage to do something incredible, amazing, that feels like people will be drawn to us, it does not often land the way we hope, where the whole potluck goes silent and say, how did you even go to space? That doesn't often happen. And even if it did, it also wouldn't be love. If we just consume the right products, if just have the right things, if I have the right shoes, if I have the right outfit, if I have the right newest fandom nerd things, then everyone in my game group will be impressed, or everybody online will be impressed. Everybody will want to be around me because I have all the things. Again, that's not love. If I just numb out and dodge vulnerability so that I'm a more pleasant person to be around, that's also not love. You're not bringing all of yourself to the table. You're not being embodied. You're also in danger of addiction and the other things that accompany numbing out, because vulnerability is required for love, right, from our social science definition. So if we can't earn our love, we can't find our love in all of these different places. Where can we find our love? In the Bible study, kids' classroom all says, in Jesus. Yay! And we might cringe a little, but it's true, it's there, and it is life-giving. So Jeremiah 31 says this, from afar, Yahweh was seen by me, saying, I have loved you with an eternal love. I am drawing you out with compassion. That from afar word can mean distance, or it can mean temporal distance, so time from eternity. God was seen by me, saying. So that was seen by me, also important because God was always there. It's not that he appeared, he is always present, but sometimes we're able to see God. And when we do see him, what does he say? I have loved you with an eternal love. That means before we could perform, before we could be helpful, before we had any needs to try to shove under the bed, before we had the right status or the right positive attitude, or before we were the chillest person in the history of the world, before any of that we cultivated, God already loved us. And it says, what is he doing in the present? If that was the past, what's the present? He's drawing us out with compassion. This is like pulling an arrow out of a quiver. This is like talking to a kid who's hiding and getting them to come out. This is like trying to get an animal to feel safe enough to come out of its place of hiding. All of those words are in the drawing us out. And how is he doing that? In compassion, with compassion. This is the work of God that he wants to do with each one of us, not just corporately, not just because it's what he does and he's begrudgingly showing up and he's stoically wishing us well, but because of love, because of compassion, because when he sees us, he's affected by us on an emotional level to want to engage with us. What does that love look like? What kind of love are we invited to experience? Isaiah 43 says, do not fear, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and in the rivers, they will not engulf you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, and the flame will not scorch you. A little break. For you are precious and honored in my eyes. I have loved you. I would give up all of humanity for you. So we can walk through that, and I put the mini little outline in the Slack if you'd like a list there. But what kind of love? We see that it is an eternal one from the last page, but from here, it is a comforting kind of love, a strengthening kind of love. That's what happens when perfect love casts out fear, is both comfort and strength can come from that. It's a rescuing, a ransoming kind of love. It's not a love that waves at us from the outside of the prison or detention center and says, hope it works out. It's a love that breaks in, Liam Neeson style, and says, absolutely not, and gets you out and brings you to better ground. It is a very active, embodied, rescuing, movie, cinematic kind of love. I have called you by your name. So it's also a intimate and specific love. We talk a lot about taking off our individualist Western eyes and putting on communal ones, but this is a place that I'd implore us to grab our individualist ones. Again, it's not just I called you by your name church. It's not I called you by your name Refuge Church. It's individual. I have called you by your name. And then it is a kind of love which is specifically one that talks about belonging. Your mine is an expression of belonging. You always have a place with God because He is the place where you belong. You're a part of His family in the same way when you're at a playground and somebody says, "Oh, which one's yours?" That kid is mine. That kid goes with me. I take care of that one. It is an accompanying love, accompaniment or companion. You hear pan in there, that's the word for bread. So breaking bread, togetherness is present in both of those words. And in here, when we go through the waters, God will be with us. It's not that we do not encounter difficult and tragic and challenging things in our life, but when we do, God will be with us. And somehow in that space, He still protects us. We might still be wet and uncomfortable and experiencing some kind of harm, and yet the waters still do not engulf you. The fire and the flame do not burn and scorch you. There is a protection that happens, right? It's not like I'll go through the incarceration process with you and hold your hand. It's also, I will protect you from being beaten up by the prison guards. Why? Because you are precious and honored. Those things go together. It's precious. You're dear to me on a deep, visceral level. And also, I honor you, right? So often we hear a very diminutive version of God's love for us that He's like, ugh, the disciples are being dumb again, but God still loves them. Or same with in Tanakh, as the Israelites were being dumb, but God still loved them. He honors us. He honors you. He honors me. He honors everyone in this room. And that also invites us to treat one another differently because God loves us not in this begrudging, stoic way, but in an honoring way. Very instructive. I have loved you, and I would give up all of humanity for you. He lists these people in the actual text that He's willing to give up, which feels jarring because we come from a Jesus era where we know He doesn't just give up humanity for one person, He gives up Himself for all of us. So sacrificial is that last line. If we go back to our image with incarceration, He says, take me instead. It's not just that He's willing to pay your bail. It's not just that He's willing to accompany you through it and protect you. He's willing to give Himself in exchange for you. So that's the kind of love that we can find in God. A lot of times in this church, we talk about the beauty of community and the beauty of being loved by one another and loved by ourselves. That is true, and we value those things, and we pursue those things, and we cultivate those things. But community isn't able to do all of these things. We will fail at some point. So one of these steps, right? As humans, it's not a shame-based thing, but we will let each other down sometimes. When it comes to self-love, we will also let one another down and ourselves down. But God, from eternity, has loved us in this particular way. And we are invited to engage with Him in that because all of these things you could choose not to engage in. You could still blindfold yourself, right? And say, I do choose to fear. You can, again, say, as even if you're being hauled out of the prison, you can say, that's not happening. I like the prison, actually. You can say, that's not my name. You can say, I don't belong with you. You can say, sure, maybe things could have been worse in this bad situation, but that's just because of the way circumstances happened, not because God loved me and God protected me. You can say, I don't think so, to the precious and honored. And you can say, just choose to say, that seems problematic, about God's willingness to sacrifice Himself and everything else on our behalf. There is an invitation that requires our yes. Sometimes we talk about just God's love as this ethereal force out there in outer space that we can wave at and be like, that's good, that's nice. I hope that's what shapes time. But we have to say yes to experiencing this in order to experience it, which seems very straightforward and obvious, but sometimes the things in us make us feel like it's not straightforward at all. That's a photo of me that somehow got generated on my phone. Love that. Okay, next slide. What then? So each of these times when we talk about these values, we've had this invitation to say, okay, if I can experience the peace of God, if I can experience hope, What's after that, right? Is it all just for me to feel good? Well, we do believe that it is okay and good for us to feel good. It's not that, again, we have to mindset, grind set our Christianity and just like stay fearful or stay angry or stay shameful until we die and just be safe. And yet, there is a next step, right? If emotion is emotion, but it's motion moving us towards something and into something, inviting us, stirring us towards something. What is that something? Well, John 15 is a super famous chapter. We've got the I'm the vine, you're the branches. But here is a portion from that. Just as the Father has loved me, I also have loved you. So Jesus in his life on earth experienced this love the same way as us, as saying yes to experiencing the love of God, hearing that you're my beloved son in whom I am well pleased, and then moving out of that space. That's something that Jesus got to practice, just as we are invited to practice. Remain in my love. Remain in my love. Sounds pretty wacky, right? If somebody loves me, that's just great. And I wave at it as it goes by, like, oh, thank you for your benevolence. I appreciate that. Peace. But apparently, love here is a kind of sphere, a kind of realm, a kind of river that we have the ability to not remain in. We can say, oh, isn't that nice that the God who created me and the entire world also made me and created me and said I was good and loves me and delights in me and feels something when he looks at me? That's cool. I'm going to carry on. YOLO. That is not remaining in the love of God. How do we remain there? How do we remain in that space of experiencing that in a way that it builds up our posture, that it changes who we are from the inside out? The way that we do that, apparently, is by keeping the commandments, the commandments of Jesus, the commandments as he interprets Tanakh, interprets Torah and walks it out in new ways, the commandments of these values for Advent that we've talking about, to be people of peace, to be people of love, to be people of hope. All of that is embodied in the idea of commandment. And when we walk that out, apparently that's how we remain in the love of God. So that's enlightening, because for some of us, the thing is like, okay, God loves me and I need to tap into that. And so I'm going to like meditate for as long as I can on that and just try to like stay in that zone all the time. Absolutely, we should bless ourselves by taking the time and space to carve out to try to experience that if that's something that is difficult for us to experience, whether that's by taking a hike or listening to music or burning incense and looking at an icon. We've talked about all these different ways to experience God before. We should pursue those. And also, the other way that we remain in that spot is by walking out these commandments. So that means also apply our logic here. If we are not walking in the commandments, we are not remaining in the love of God. So if we are saying, those people over there are my enemies, I hate them, I wish them poorly, we are not remaining in the love of God. If we are gossiping about one another, if we are engaging in cynicism, in trading, in doom sayings, all of the things that we talk about as being things that are missing the mark, that aren't usually thought of missing the mark, all of those things count as not remaining in the love of God. Anger is not remaining in the love of God. So, our what then is this invitation to remind ourselves, what are the commandments? If I want to experience this love, this eternal love, this self-sacrificial love, this ever-giving, protective, comforting, strengthening love, rescuing, ransoming love, I got to walk in the commandments, which is weird because we're grace people. We're Protestants. We say, by grace alone, through faith alone, baby, bye. I don't have to actually do anything. Peace. Yes, in order to be loved by God, in order to check your heaven card, it is true that it doesn't depend on our performance. But apparently, the choices that we make on this planet and the way that we walk have an effect on our ability to experience the love of God. Because whether we climb down into the river or not, the river is still there, but we don't get to experience the life-giving, refreshment, temperature dropping, community blessing component of the river if we're just wave at it as we go by on our hike. So we're going to pray. We're going to sing another song. What is it about? It's about God, experiencing God in our inner being, in our world, and knowing who He is, having that connection with God. And then we're going to come on down and talk about things together. So I'm going to pray for us. God, I thank you that your love is not insecure. It's not desperately seeking out attention. It's not the kind of love that is going to lash back out at us if we don't do the right thing. Whatever kind of images of love, of this distant, begrudging, stoic parent who's not really engaged with us, I pray that you would heal that vision of love that has been impacted by partners and family members and friendships that might not have been fully reflecting who you are. I pray that you would give us wisdom and insight as we identify, oh, God isn't that way. He's set apart. He's different. That doesn't match this new conception of love that I've been pondering about. I pray that you would show up in that space in our imagination. I pray that you would help us then after we get a hold of that to experience it fully, let it saturate us, and then be able to walk out that love in our community, in our family, in our workplace, wherever we find our feet. I pray that we would be known by our love, that everything else we would do, we don't have that desire to connect with another person. Pray that you would lend us your spirit so that we can love people well and love people in life-giving, revivifying, resurrecting ways, just as you do for us. I pray all of this in your name, Jesus. Amen.